The UK economy has faced not one, but three massive external shocks.
We've been pounded by a series of once-in-a-generation shocks.
Dealing with the consequences of the financial crisis,
The worst international financial crisis.
a once-in-a-century pandemic,
The first global pandemic since the Spanish flu in 1918.
and a 1970s-style energy shock.
The biggest energy shock since the 1970s.
General election year.
General election. Election style.
Election.
5 national missions.
And some of those other pledges.
6 steps.
All right.
Ladies and gents, welcome. How we doing? What's going on? Happy Friday to you guys. Let's get into it, shall we? Thank you so much for waiting. Those in the live chat, very slightly tardy, starting the show this evening. But let's jump straight into it, shall we? Now it's Friday night. It's been a hell of a week. Who is up for joining me to once again make sense of the senseless? That's what we do on this show, isn't it? We try to reason with the reality of the modern world. We try to wrap our darkness around your light. Quick shout out to the Patreons and the YouTube backers, YouTube community backers. You guys give my life hope. That's what you do. You give me meaning. You embolden / radicalize me into spending more time than I should do as a father hiding in this cabin that my girlfriend is either good enough to let me escape to or happy enough that she gets a break from me. And so then I get to come out here and do this for you guys. You guys allow that to happen, and I recognize it. So I do. People like Sarah Setters, Bowman, Mojo Sabian, Stu, Dave, T-Rex, all of the regulars from the Discord, but also the newbies, guys. Had a few newbies recently. Richard, what's up? Diane, and all the silent watchers as well. The people that join the Patreon and then don't come into the Discord. And also some newbies that I've not really interacted with that much yet. Tracy, Darian, Gareth. We had a new one earlier. Riley Colnam. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm so not on the ball with the emails and like the alerts and stuff. But I really hope I've not missed anybody there. Our question tonight, guys. Last few live streams, I've been starting off with a question. I put it out to the live chat, and then you guys, you sort of talk amongst yourselves, but it's good, like it sort of builds up the community. It makes it a conversation. Okay? And tonight's question, that I'm putting out amongst you, tonight's question, which I'm going to come back to periodically, or maybe I'll just come back to it at the end. I don't know. We'll see how we go. We'll see what the flow's like tonight. But here it is. Here's the qualifying bit before the question, just to make it make sense, guys. I was thinking the other day that when we do these live chats, these live streams, and I put a question out to the crowd, sometimes it all gets a bit boozy, right? Oh, just had a super chat. I suppose I should jump in there. Christine Cash says, hi, Aid. Hey, Christine, how you doing, man? I was thinking the other day that, and thank you very much for the super chat. Sorry, I should say thank you straight away. But yes, back to our question for this evening. I was thinking, like, sometimes it gets a bit boozy. You put the question out. Sometimes it feels very cathartic when you field these questions to people. And you get a lot of responses back, and they feel a similar way to the way that you do. Sometimes it feels like a sort of social club, a support group, if you like. For those of us who have, in one way or another, been mauled by the marching band of corruption and cretiny that is the Conservative Party. You know, it's like we're all here together That's what's brought us together. And so, because it's a bit boozy and because it's sort of brought us all together, it's sort of the opposite of an Alcoholics Anonymous kind of vibe, isn't it? Sometimes. Instead of here sitting, in a circle, all sober, sharing our stories, we sit here, have a few beers, and cathartically try to make sense of them. So I thought, why don't we liven this veritable intervention up by raising a glass to one another tonight in the live chat and sharing our goals for how we think we'll be celebrating the election. Assuming we do, of course, finally get to delouse our politics of this scourge of Torydom. Assuming the GE goes the way that we all hope it does and the way that the polls are predicting, here is the question. I would like you guys now in the live chat, this is my kind request of you, to share in the live chat your name, right? What you're drinking tonight, or smoking, and then how you think you will be celebrating come the exit polls. Okay, so I can start, if you like, a little example to set things off. So my name is Aid. I'm enjoying a can or glass of Hazy Jane here, and I will be ringing in the parliamentary death of the Conservative Party by chewing my fucking face off in a pub in Westminster. Like, literally taking it to ground zero. Guys, there will be tears. There will be milkshakes, probably. I don't know. I'm not, suggesting anyone should go out and, assault our political adversaries with milkshakes. I'm just saying if it did happen, it wouldn't not be hilarious on that night as well. So, there you go. That's all you got to do in the live chat. My name is Joe Blogs. I'm drinking a beer or wine or whatever. And then how you're going to celebrate come results time. That's all you got to do tonight. Is a sharing of stories. Our little circle of trust here. So, those of you who are just joining for the first time ever, firstly, welcome to the show. I've got to remember what camera I'm on here. One of the things I've been doing recently in the last few live streams, and I'm really getting into this. Like, normally I would do a midweek solo show, right? And it would just be me ranting, and it's pre-recorded, and then Friday night, normally I would get a guest on. But recently I've been getting into doing the live chat and building up, the conversation with the followers, and it's become a bit more transactional. I'm feeling it, basically. But another thing that I've started doing on a Friday night is having a little look back at the week, as it were. So, are we ready, guys? Should we do our Friday night recap once more? Are we ready for this? Let's do our usual self-flagellating look back. Like every day of the week's news is another Catholic punishment bead going across your spine. A news retrospective enjoyed with the same delight you might normally reserve for an eye-watering, hemorrhoid-piercing shit. So, let's get into it. Monday this week started with Rishi Sunak trying to get us so scared of China, Russia, artificial intelligence, nuclear war, that you would keep him in power, presumably in the hope that he might then gift you relief by killing you with a lack of central heating and reasonably priced food. I think that's the strategy. But I think Sunak vastly underestimates the anger and desperation of people out there. I don't think he has any real concept of how desperate people are, And by proxy, how desperate they are to get rid of the Tories, right? I honestly think in his mind, he's like, we've got all of these threats. We've got all these threats coming at us from all angles, every direction. So don't vote Labour because we will keep you safe. From the nuclear bombs, from the AI, from the this, from that, natural gas, Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. We'll keep you safe. And I'm like, yeah, maybe from those. Then what about all of the other domestic problems? The ways that you normally kill us? You're going to save us from, like, Putin and, well, like, increased gas prices or something? AI? You're going to save us from all of that and then lead us safely back into our delayed cancer treatment. That is where this is heading. If there's another Tory majority. That seems to be his campaigning strategy. He's like, but Putin and China might nuke you. Everyone's like, oh my God. Yeah, okay. Well, I want to be safe, so here's my vote. He's like, yeah, so vote for me. Okay, no, thanks very much. Yep, cross in the Sunak box. Yep, okay, and then just come this way, come back over this way, and let's get you into the plebatoire. Boom. Wow, okay, I feel safe. Thanks, Rish. And I don't know, man, like, who even believes that the Conservatives would have any idea, have the first clue as to what it would mean to keep people safe? You know? Like, based on what? Based on what? Like, on their history? They're going to keep us safe. I have faith that they're going to keep us safe based on their track record the last 14 years. Like, look at the last decade, man. Does anybody feel safer now than in 2010? Like, really? Honestly? You know, you've got disabled people getting pushed back into work. You've got violent criminals getting released because the prisons are over capacity. You've got 100,000 criminal records just lost. There's no capacity for courts and judges to convict or, like, push more people back into prison because they funneled all the resources into getting Rwanda cases prioritized. And that's before we talk about what, like, you know, declining life expectancy, child poverty, and organized crime, you know? Like, does anybody really feel safer now? I don't think they do than back in 2010. I think the only reason that people aren't out trashing, stealing, and looting their way across London right now is that the rail network is so fucked they never get the plasmas home. That is the only reason. It is, you know, you'd have a gang of them turning up at Waterloo like, yeah, when's the 702, bruv? It's been hours, bruv. These figs are heavy. Oh, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You're a train company, bruv. I bought a ticket. Where's the train? They'd be like, oh, don't get aggy with me, all right? You know, the shareholders got their millions. The privatised offshores got theirs. The Tories have plunged the rail network into chaos. But just trust me on this, okay? This is all somehow Sadiq's fault, all right? So if you've got a problem with privatised rail and creaking infrastructure, it's somehow Mr. Khan's fault. Go and pick at him. I mean, we're supposed to keep our faith in Rishi Sunak. We're supposed to trust Sunak to keep us safe. After a decade of the Conservative Party making us feel progressively unsafer. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, do any of the listeners that tune in on Spotify and Apple, or when you catch up later on YouTube, do any of you feel safer? Really? Got my son's mobile phone just giving me jib. Sorry. Hugely unprofessional. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think there's kittens going into dogfights right now who feel more physically confident than most of the British population. But the way that this was sold to us, man, the other day, I don't know if you guys remember it, if you tuned in to Rishi Sunak's speech, but the way that it was sold to it, he was like, oh, it's the authoritarians. We're up against authoritarian forces, global authoritarian forces. Aid, we should be very, very scared about these authoritarians. Iran, China, Russia, there's so many authoritarian forces, Aid. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like, it's always a favourite of mine when they bang on about authoritarians, because this is the most right-wing authoritarian government that we've had in living memory, really, isn't it? Clamping down on protest, ostracizing left-leaning media from election campaigns and interviews. And the Rwanda trip, do you remember that one? Suella Braverman only invited her favourite journalists over there. No Guardian, no Mirror. So free press, free protest, populism, voter disenfranchisement. Like, is any of this ringing any bells, Rish? Let me keep you safe from the people who do precisely what I would love to do if I thought I could get away with it. That is basically what we're talking about. What happened next? That was just Monday, man. What happened next? Tuesday. A police officer and 2 others were charged with spying for China, guys. One guy who worked in the border force, immigration control. Sometimes you see them in customs. Another guy was just a Bobby on the beat, The other guy, the third guy, we still don't know what he was, actually. But a Bobby on the beat and a border force officer. To me, that feels, we're talking about spies. To me, that feels a bit low level, doesn't it? Border force, Bobby on the beat. Is the third one a traffic warden? That would make... he would fit in perfectly. Just, low level kind of ish enforcement. And these guys were apparently spies. Which really makes you think, what must the conversations have been like in Beijing? What was the plan? What was the strategy here? It's like, we want to infiltrate their home office. That's what we want to do. Right, okay. How are we going to do that? Well, hear me out. It's a bit of a long game approach, but what we're going to do is we're going to plant them in relatively menial roles, okay? Then we're going to wait 20 years for them to climb the greasy pole, climb that career ladder until finally they're promoted into Whitehall. And bam! Just like that! 20 years later, you've got an asset behind enemy lines. 20 years of maintaining their fake personas, building up relationships with people that they've got to lie to, and staying under the radar of the security services. 20 years. It's a bit risky, isn't it? I'm not sure I believe that they were spies, but it's just a bit of a weird story, isn't it, guys? Bit of a weird one. Chinese spies, but they're just like a regular police constable, I wonder if, right? I wonder if they were trying to get the guy through the vetting, as a police officer, They were like, well, what do we do if they pick up the fact that he's got Chinese connections and suspicious money going into his account when he's going through the police vetting? What are we going to do? They're going to be exposed immediately. They'll immediately know that there's a Chinese spy trying to get into the police force. And then the other guy will be like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. No, it's fine. I know, you're right to be concerned, but hear me out. We'll just tell the police that he's a rapist, and he'll be greenlit straight in. No questions asked. Here's your badge, love. But yeah, weird story, right? China, spies, policemen, border force. Because I read this, right? I read this story. Front page of the Telegraph, I think it was. And I was a bit like what are China expecting to find out by sending their best and brightest deep undercover into dinghy patrol and suitcase inspection? Like, what are you expecting to find out from those jobs? Like, aren't these the same guys that, like, they put TikTok out to spy on us, you know, and on Western teenagers, and they're out there installing bugs in Rishi Sunak's car and spies in Parliament, and, you know, was that all phase one? Is that just, like, the first tranche of espionage? You know, the super futuristic, deep undercover, institution placement espionage program. That's the first one, but none of that worked. We figured it all out. So now, phase two is to go back to more traditional methods. You know, they'll send out some goofy foot soldiers to join immigration control and become a Bobby on the beat or a traffic warden. And they'll probably parachute them in from their stupid fucking weather balloons. Well, let's move on. Wednesday, guys. Wednesday. Should we have a little break? Should we go back to the chat? Should we see how people are going to celebrate come the election? Let's do that. Here we go. I'm going to scan upwards. Let's have a look. Mojo is saying, did you read that Sunak and his wife are £120 million richer than when he took power? Yeah, man. Nice work if you can get it, isn't it? That's the thing with these Richies. Rishis is, you know, because all of their money is in assets and stocks and shares and property. So even though cash is becoming progressively worthless, their money inclines in value. It's just the rest of us. It's just the masses of plebs like you, me, and everyone else who it's just our money and our net worth that's slowly tanking. But it's okay because he's going to keep us safe, Mojo. Where have we got? Have we got any? My name is Joe Blogs. Have we got any of those? Jason Edwards says, hey, Aid, first message I've done on this kind of thing, but you are great. Funny, down to earth, and most importantly, right about everything. And, of course, drunk. It's a bit early for me to be drunk. It's the end of the week, right? Firstly, welcome, Jason, welcome. But secondly, yes, it's, what are we now? It's 5 to 8. So by the time I get on Labour Social later, I will be, playful, hopefully, or just really tired, you know. One or the other. It's like a seesaw for me when I go on Labour Social. I either get really rowdy and playful and a bit, raucous, or I just get really fucking tired because I've been up since like 5 with the little one. You said you were going to sit and listen to us earlier on, Aid. Phew. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. It's nice to hear of a bent cop and it not to turn into a horrific sex attack or racism story. A breath of fresh air, really. Yeah. Puninator. Hey, Puninator. How you doing, man? Puninator is, I don't think he's one of my Patreons unless he goes by a different name on Patreon and Discord. Or she. Sorry, could be she. But Puninator is in here every week, showing up for us. So what's up, Pun? He says, my name is Pun. I'm drinking Coca-Cola, brackets teetotal. Fair play, mate. And I'll be celebrating the election with probably a victory wank. And oh, look, there goes AIDS monetization. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot. Lucky that you didn't say anything more salacious there, Pun, because I read these things like Ron Burgundy. I'm like, there's no filter. There's no PR department or delay thing that filters the stuff. It just comes straight out my mouth. Anyway, let's go back to our recap, shall we? So, where did we get to? Tuesday was the spies, right? So Wednesday, guys. Wednesday saw a new portrait of the king unveiled. Whoa! Wow. If anybody needed me on Wednesday, ahead of them unveiling this thing, I'll tell you where I was. I was on the edge of my seat. That's where I was. Let me show you this king's portrait. Here we go. The king's portrait. I mean, what did you guys think of it? People in the chat, people in the comment section, maybe a bit later. What did you guys make of King Charles's new portrait? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Maybe? I don't know. Were you indifferent about it? Should a portrait even really be a news thing? Do we need to know when people get pictures of themselves painted? Really? I mean, the Sun spaffed its usual royalist subservient nonsense about it. It was stuff like, what was it? It was like a king unveils first official portrait, you know, because they are right-leaning, flag-waving royalists, right, over at the Sun. The Mail, kind of similar, obviously. The Telegraph described it as the king in pink. Which is fine. I think it's more red, but okay. Others described it sparingly as glorious and commanding. The Guardian... The Guardian, perhaps somewhat predictably, gave it a 1-star review and called it a formulaic bit of facile flattery, which is so Guardian. I didn't even know that, like, paintings could get, like, a 1-star review. It's like, come and see my painting. Yeah, 1 star. It's like a fringe review, but for the paint. I don't know. The BBC, which, you know, they're supposed to be politically neutral, aren't they? You know, neither this nor that. They described it quite neutrally as a portrait. But my 2 favourite bits of reaction to this, right? To the king's new portrait were... Right, so the first one was weirdly from the Daily Express, which said, King Charles's new portrait mocked as it looks like Extinction Rebellion already got to it. Which it does. It looked like his face. Look at his face. It looks like that's the original painting is his face, and then Extinction Rebellion like smeared, you know, tomatoes and ketchup and red paint all around the rest of it. That is what it looks like. So here's a sentence I never thought I would say. Bravo, Daily Express. That was actually a good job for a change. You managed to keep Rishi Sunak's plums out of your mouth just long enough to say something funny about something else. Good for you. But also this. So that was from the Express. This came from 16 Million Rising, which I believe is the Twitter account for a pro-EU radio station. So go and check that out if you want. But this was in relation to the King's portrait, and it said, at last, a little honesty. The latest King's portrait breaks significant ground as it drenches the monarch in centuries of blood to symbolise the royal family's links to the slave trade. Which, again, if you're new to this podcast, if you're new to like the stuff that I put out, this is my vibe. I really love when there's something, you know, potentially uplifting or something that people are getting enthusiastic about. And then you just find the comedic downside to it. We wrap our darkness around your light. But yeah, I mean, look, guys, does nobody in the right-wing press see how unutterably ridiculous this is? Nobody having news cover the fact that a king, had a painting done of himself, and the news are like running to it, like, oh my God, tell me all about the painting. A king had a painting done of himself, and now we all have to take pictures of the painting of the king. Like, nobody sees how ridiculous that is, really. Nobody thinks that's a bit weird? Maybe? We don't think it's a bit strange to be banging on about authoritarians and unelected dictators who, you know, everyone's saying, you can't vote them out, though. You can't vote them. It's a dictatorship. It's authoritarian, Zaid. You can't even vote them out. You know, and how they control their press and they keep their people subservient like that. And then a day later, this lot are like, oh, blimey, look at this new painting, this lovely new painting that he's got done of itself. Oh, he's wonderful, any old Charlie. Oh, God bless the king. And it's national news. It's across the papers. And here's the weird thing, right? It's not even an abnormal thing, is it? When you get this sort of coverage. It's every single day. Every single day. There's a picture of Camilla on this one. You know, you go over to the Express, there's a little, you know, thing down the just bottom right. Oh, there's a picture of Edward. Oh, I love Edward too. Like, the only reason that there wasn't a gushy photo of a royal smiling at a racehorse or opening a pharmacy that day is because there was a painting this time instead. That is the only reason, though. Oh, God. Thursday. Let's keep going, shall we? Thursday, yesterday, right? Labour unveiled their 6-point plan. 6 fixes for broken Britain. And this is after Rishi Sunak's 5 pledges, which came after Theresa May's 4-point plan, which was after Boris Johnson's 3. But I actually don't know what his were. What was Boris Johnson's 3 thing? I honestly can't remember. But I think how these things start, right? The reason that they're sort of incrementing, the reason they're going up, you know, it was 3, then it became 4, then it's 5, now it's 6. I think the reason it's going in that direction is because it started off as just like one idea, one vision, like vote for me and Britain could be this. It just started off as that one idea. But over the course of the last, 20 or 30 years, they've just gradually, progressively, parliament by parliament, government by government, they've progressively fucked it up worse and worse. That it went from 1 to 2. Okay, well, now we've got 2 things to fix. Then it got up to 3. Okay, well, we'll fix this, this, and this. Then it got up to 4. And now I need a 4-point plan. Then it's 5. Now we've got Starmer out there going, 6. 6 things that we're going to have to look into. I think that's what happened. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what Boris Johnson's for. Did Boris actually do one? Did he do pledges? Did he have a 4 or 5-point plan? Anybody know in the chat? I don't really remember. In fact, you know what, right? I think here's what probably happened with Boris Johnson. I think he was probably in CCHQ, right? He's probably like, I really think I'd like to go to the electorate. I'd like to go to them with a 3 or 4-point plan, like a sort of, some pledges. Maybe some commitments of some sort. And I guarantee you, the people from Conservative Central Office, the marketing guys were like, no. No to all of that. What do you mean? Well, here's the thing, right, is you are Boris Johnson. I'm aware of that. Right, but the thing is Boris Johnson is known for a lack of commitment. Not for keeping to his pledges, his promises. So just no. Just stick to the script, your 3-word slogans. That's it. All politicians lie. I should be able to do a 3-point plan or 4 pledges, 5 promises or commitments. No, we've tried it. We've tried it with focus groups. We say, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say Boris Johnson? And all of them come back immediately with liar. Really? That's the top one? Every time? Well, it was a close second with Tosser. But yeah, so there was the Labour pledges. What did we all make of the Labour pledges? Were we excited? by Labour's latest round of pledges. I don't think he actually styled it as pledges, did he? Because his own leadership campaign was pledges, and he's broken so many of them. So he's, I can't. Like, now his comms people are like, you can't go to market with pledges, Keir. All right? That ship has sailed. You've soiled that word for everyone. So think of another word. How about missions? Fine. Missions. Yeah. 5 missions for Britain. But yeah, how are we feeling about Labour's 5 missions or 6 missions? I don't know what they're called or how many of them there are, but people seem to be reasonably, enthused yesterday. But were they progressive enough for you guys, for dear listeners, for the Patreons, for the YouTube community types? Were they radical enough? Was the unveiling theatrical enough? Perhaps you might have preferred, as I would, a blood-red portrait of Keir Starmer holding a tablet of them. Maybe with some crying think tank staff like either side of him. And then just in the background, like CEOs of like energy and rail companies just hanging on a cross. Like, I would have quite liked that. That's my sort of unveiling of the missions. But listen, if you didn't catch the missions, the pledges, here they are in short. Right, I've got them here. With the loose amount of prep that I have done here. So you've got a new national energy service, which will be designed to compete with the big 4, keep prices down. You got a new border force. They want to cut NHS waiting lists. They're going on a big recruiting teacher frenzy, which is probably good, now that we can't bring them over from Spain or France or whatever. And also, they said about nationalising rail again the other week, didn't they? And they've said that they're going to row back on Rwanda. So that's all good. These are modest moves in the right direction, in my opinion. Although, do you know what? Nationalising rail is pretty good. That's pretty radical. And the National Energy Service, they're probably the biggest two, aren't they? They're the ones I'm actually excited about. But yeah, it's a step in the right direction. Others want things to be more radical. But then the pragmatists enter the room and they say, well, it always comes back to money. Do we have enough money to do those radical things? Like we all want, or we need, for example, social care to be better. For the people we love to be able to live out their final years in dignity. We all want that. Of course we do. Nobody wants the oldies to be shivering and starving. On that much we can agree, even in these divided times. But to upgrade that service, guys, to where it should be, would cost tens of billions of pounds. And we just don't have the money, guys. The billionaires have that money. It is literally that money that the billionaires have. They have it over here, but so there's very little that we can do to get that money. Do you understand? The billionaires have it. If we had it, obviously we could build a few 100 or 1,000 facilities and hire a few nurses to make sure your grad isn't wandering around Slough with a muff out asking strangers when we're going to get ice cream. But the corporations and the billionaires have that money. And I know. If only there was some way to move it from companies and the super rich into the treasury so that it could be spent on on nurses and social care facilities, but I mean, we've tried. We've tried nothing. We've tried absolutely nothing, and zero ways of broaching even the subject. So, just tell your gran that we wish her the best, but that she should thank her lucky stars that she's being kept safe by the Tories. I mean, it must be scary walking around Slough, riddled with dementia, naked. But imagine that and a nuclear bomb going off, guys. So, be a pretty bad Monday. Let's go back into the chat quickly, shall we? Let's see if we've got any other ways of celebrating the election tonight. I say the election tonight, I mean celebrating the election, comma, tonight. I'm not even sure what the right grammar is for that. You understand what I mean? There is not an election tonight. I can't stress that enough. Here we go. So, did you see Keir Starmer running slow-mo for everyone? What did he say? 3-word slogan, Jimbo says. I'm not seeing any other ways of celebrating a general election victory here, guys. Oh, here we go. Richard Marsden, one of my newer Patreons. What's up, Rich? My name is Rich, and I finger-blasted Camilla, and and all I have to show for it is this bloody painting. You see, this is what I'm talking about, right? You can't put stuff into the chat and then be surprised when I just read it out. I mean, I criticize newspapers for retailing out just what they're told. Like it's a hot potato they've just been oh, quick, put it out. I have to do this live. I don't have time to PR this stuff. Reg Holsworth says, who is on the cutout behind you? It is Donald Trump. Lots of people have guessed it, and they've guessed it correctly. It's a sort of ongoing joke. I'll explain it another time. But shall I do it? I'll do it quickly now. Basically, me and my brother send each other terrible gifts for Christmas and for birthdays and stuff. I sent him a cardboard cutout of Philip Schofield pre-scandal. I also sent him an autograph picture of the really annoying lady off Towie. Gemma, what's her face? I can't remember her name now. Which he loves. I'm sure he loves that. Anyway, let's talk about today, because we're up to today now, right? We're up to Friday in our Week of Awfulness retrospective. Let's talk about today. Should we talk about Hunt's speech? Or should we just talk about this election campaign and how abysmal it's likely to be? I mean, judging by what we've seen of it so far, and it hasn't even really started yet. So how bad is it going to crescendo into? We've seen Sermon Sunak try to scare us with, China, Russia, and AI. We've had Sermon Jeremy Hunt trying to scare us with Labour's tax rises. Like, it's been a proper fright fest so far, hasn't it? Rishi's scaring us with this. Jeremy's scaring us with that. Quick, Rishi, you frighten them over here. Jeremy's going to frighten them over there. We're doing a fright fest. Every other day, another scare story. Like, we're not even in campaign mode proper yet. This is just a run-up. This is like a preview to the election, and it's already drenched in misinformation and demonstrable lies. Like, this week has been like a shit movie trailer, where you're like, I do not want to see that. That looks awful, Like, ironically for Rishi Sunak, for all of his forewarning about AI, like, the future's about to get really fucked up. The future's going to be bloody awful. We better prepare ourselves for the future. You're going to be scared about the future because it's so bloody awful. In a way, he's right. Because this prelude to the general election campaign is making me go, yeah, I'm loath to agree with you, Rish, but I can already sense the next 6 months are going to be truly fucking unbearable. I mean, the whole week has been just an exercise in opposite world, really, hasn't it? You've got Sunak worrying about AI and deepfakes. They're going to end up using deepfakes in their campaigning. You just know it. You've got pearl clutching going on about authoritarians. These guys are hard right authoritarians. You've got North Korea on the axis of evil, and then look at the Charles painting. Look at the painting. It's on every single newspaper. Isn't Charles wonderful? You've got Hunt warning about tax rises when he's hiked our taxes. Like, I'm not losing my mind, am I? It is truly through the looking glass now. It is opposite world territory, is it not? The Tories attacking Labour, accusing Labour of doing what they obviously do themselves, of who they are. You know, like, here's a question for you, right? How long before it reaches its nadir, right? How long before Starmer's political adversaries go the whole hog and just say he's a full-on Tory? Oh, wait, no, they already do that, Aid. They already do that. Okay, all right. I mean, I will say this, right? I will say this about Hunt's speech. He seems to be saying this, right? This appears to be his vibe. He's like, look, Labour will raise your taxes. But he's saying that because he's seen the books. And he knows, on the basis of it, with the profit and loss, the spreadsheet, this coming in, treasury coffers, he knows that Labour will be forced to raise taxes, right? He knows that, based on the status quo. So how is nobody saying, like, well, look, if you're certain that Labour are going to need to raise taxes, like, doesn't that tell you that that's them having to pay the bill for what you're doing now? You know? Like, you're sort of dobbing on yourself there, Jezza. It's like the Treasury equivalent of like a sort of an argument between like a teenage girl and her boyfriend, right? It's the Treasury equivalent of the girl smashing her boyfriend's windows, and then in front of all of their mates, she's like, now how you gonna pay for it? You know, like, and then when he's like, I don't know, I didn't do any of this. She's like, do you see? I told you he's no good with money. Like, that is what it's like. Oh, man. Right, let's go back to the chat. Let's see how we do it, and then I've got to go because I've got to quickly edit this out, get it out to the Patreons and YouTube community types, and then I'm going to be on Labour Social at 9 o'clock. But we're going to quickly take a quick look at the chat, and we'll see. Have we got any more? Like, my name's Tracy, my name's Mojo, my name's Jimbo, and this is how I'm going to be celebrating the election. You've got about 2 minutes to get them in, so now's your time if you haven't done one. Jimbo says there's a joke there somewhere about Camilla's tampon. Yeah, do you know what? I was shocked by the absence of Camilla tampon jokes when that painting, I'll get it up on the screen again, when that painting was unveiled. I was like, I mean, it is blood red, right? It looks a bit bloody, and one of his big tabloid stories was that he said, wasn't it? He said he wished that he was Camilla's tampon. This is when they were having the affair or something. Like, it's a known comedic reference, but I didn't see it in any tweets or anything. So maybe everyone's forgetting about that. We need to bring it back. No. Tracy Birch says, Bifter and tea. Also a teetotaler. Partying at exit polls, though, with more bifters. Yeah, good for you, man. I talked a bit the other night on the solo show. They're all solo shows now, Aid. On the midweek one, about how I smoked weed a few times, but I just found it shut me up. And I like to talk, obviously. It just made me like weird and tired and reserved. I remember one time I went round like a sort of friend of a friend's house, and I'd had I think I'd had about 3 beers, right? Which is not loads, but it is, or was, in my case, too much to then have, literally about 3 or 4 tokes off a spliff. And oh my God, I was so unwell. And it's stuff like that just makes you go, do you know what? I'm good. I'm going to stick to the beer. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I pulled any other whiteys. Maybe that should be it. Oh, we got a new subscriber. Or is it a super chat? Oh, it's a super chat. There we go. Punninators throwing me £5. Thank you, Pun. Much appreciated. Can't decide on painting title. Either 1, Charlie on Camilla's time in the month. Always with the tampon refs. And then Charlie reliving a trip in a French tunnel. Oh, come on now. There's a little filter in my brain that's too soon. And then I'm reminded that it's how many years ago? Is it 30 years ago now? 20 years ago it must be. 97, wasn't it? What's that? 2007, 2017, about 25 years ago, right? God. Anyway, that's about all we got time for, guys. I'm going to have to run. Thank you so much for joining me again, people in the live chat. And for anyone else that's just sort of watching and hasn't jumped in the live chat, if you'd like to do so next week, we'd be very happy to have you. I'm going to do a solo show. I keep calling them solo shows out of habit. I'm going to do another midweek show on Tuesday or Wednesday this coming week. I'm doing a Patreon and YouTube community backers meetup in London. I've got the date here, finally. Saturday the 6th of July in London. So if you want to get involved, join our little community, my cult, as it were. That's cult, C-U-L-T, just in case it didn't come out clear on the mic. Join my little cult. We will be meeting up in London Saturday the 6th of July. We'll get a few beers in the afternoon. We'll probably put the world to rights. Last time I had way too much tequila and I don't really remember the end of the evening, so I'm sure it will be probably just as messy this time. You've still got time to join the Patreon and the YouTube community stuff if you want to get the invite to that. But that's it for this one for now. Thanks very much again for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all next week. Peace.